Star Trek just delivered Deep Space Nine's real ending, giving fans what they always wanted. For over 2 decades, Star Trek Deep Space Nine has lingered in fans' minds as the most daring, introspective, and spiritually complex chapter of the franchise. It was a series that ended not with finality, but with mystery, Captain Benjamin Sisko ascending to the Celestial Temple, promising to return one day. That open-ended finale in 1999 has inspired endless debate. Was Sisko dead, transcendent, or something beyond comprehension? Now, thanks to Star Trek's new storytelling revival across multiple shows, fans have finally received what feels like Deep Space Nine's real ending, a moment that ties the show's themes of destiny, sacrifice, and faith into the modern Trek universe in a way that gives fans the closure they've been waiting for. The return of DS9, a spiritual legacy. When Star Trek Lower Decks revisited Deep Space Nine in its 4th season, it wasn't just a nostalgic detour, it was a statement. The station looked almost identical to how fans remembered it, orbiting Bajor with the familiar hum of activity and camaraderie. But more importantly, the show treated DS9 not as a relic, but as a living part of Star Trek's evolving mythology. In a clever balance of humor and heart, Lower Decks showed that the Federation still reveres what DS9 represented: the frontier between the known and the divine. Seeing Kira Nerys now commanding the station, and the Byron wormhole still shimmering as a link to the prophets, was the first step toward emotional closure. But it was another recent Star Trek story that truly gave DS9 its long overdue resolution. Section 31 and the Shadow of Sisko. The upcoming Section 31 movie, starring Michelle Yeoh's Emperor Philippa Georgiou, has delved deeper into Starfleet's moral complexities, the same gray areas DS9 explored better than any other series. However, what shocked longtime fans was the inclusion of Byron's spiritual references and a covert Federation operation connected to the Celestial Temple. Hidden in this storyline was an acknowledgement that the Federation had continued to study, even revere, Sisko's disappearance. The dialogue in one teaser referenced the emissary's legacy, suggesting that the Federation now views Sisko not just as a hero, but as a bridge between corporeal and non-linear existence. That's a powerful notion, one that takes DS9 a spiritual backbone and evolves it for a modern age. It reframes Sisko's sacrifice not as an ending, but as the beginning of a new cosmic relationship between humanity and the prophets. For fans who always struggled with the ambiguous final moments of what you leave behind, this subtle but emotional callback offers the peace the finale never could. Sisko's choice was never about leaving his family or abandoning Starfleet. It was about transcending both, uniting faith and duty in a way that still echoes through the 25th century. Jake Sisko finally gets his closure. Perhaps the most satisfying moment of this modern DS9 epilogue came not in live action, but in Star Trek Online, the ongoing canonical MMO that's increasingly intertwined with on-screen continuity. In a recent storyline, an older Jake Sisko finally returns to Deep Space Nine and stands before the wormhole once again. He speaks not with anger or grief, but with acceptance, a man who has finally come to terms with the idea that his father didn't vanish, but evolved. In a beautifully written exchange, Jake acknowledges that his father's role as the emissary was never meant to end in linear time. His final line, "He's still out there, watching over Bajor and the people he loved," serves as the perfect emotional punctuation mark to the DS9 saga. This small but deeply resonant moment is what fans have wanted for years. Acknowledgement that Sisko's story didn't end in tragedy or ambiguity, but in transcendence. The Federation has finally embraced DS9's philosophy. What makes this culmination even more meaningful is how it reframes the Federation itself. Deep Space Nine often portrayed Starfleet as conflicted, its moral idealism tested by war, politics, and prophecy. The Federation in newer Star Trek stories, however, now embodies what DS9 always hinted it could become: a civilization that accepts the coexistence of science and spirituality. The prophets are no longer treated as an anomaly to be studied, but as partners in the shared journey toward understanding existence. This ideological evolution ties beautifully back to Sisko's arc, from skeptical Starfleet officer to enlightened emissary. The modern Federation finally sees what Sisko learned long ago: that faith and logic aren't enemies, but complementary paths toward truth. In this sense, DS9's real ending isn't a scene or a speech. It's a philosophical inheritance. The show's influence has subtly reshaped how Star Trek approaches morality, fate, and destiny. What you leave behind, revisited. The final image of DS9's original finale, Kira looking out over the wormhole, was always hauntingly open-ended. It symbolized hope, waiting, and the continuation of purpose. But now, through decades of storytelling that expanded upon its foundation, we can reinterpret that moment as prophetic. Kira wasn't just waiting for Cisco to return physically. She